Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Wednesday. This is Leah and Ryan from FeathersleightPigeonAuctions.com here with your Wednesday Fepa and friends. Shall I check to make sure we are live on Facebook and YouTube before we get into the whole thing? Because I don't want to get into it and then we're not on. So I'm going to send it over to Ryan to say hello. I'm going to check to make sure we are live on Facebook and in YouTube. Over to you, Ryan.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching. Hey now, hey now, hey now. Big day today here this Wednesday. We're back in the UK. We love the UK. They've got some super flyers, some super pigeons, some super competition, some great racing. And this is going to be a great show today. Before we start, all I like to say, guys, is please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. The best way to give us a tip per se is just hit that subscribe link on the YouTube. If you don't know how to do it, get a little infant around you. They will show you how to set up a little YouTube account so you can subscribe to this page and get all your notifications when we're on. But this is going to be a big show today. I hope you guys like war paint, a little bit of grizzling with a whole lot of hella good results, because this is a heavy result, gentlemen. He gets the result and he goes the distance. But remember, before he won in distance, he was a sprint winner as well. Leah, before I continue, are we on the YouTube and the Facebook?
We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Want to say welcome to everybody. Guys, want to remind everyone, as Ryan said, please like, share, and subscribe. Remember, this show works best when we are interactive. So if you have questions for today's special guest, please don't be shy. Put them in the comments and we will try our best to get to them. We are also going to be doing another giveaway at some point during the show. So make sure you stay to watch the entire show. We're going to be giving away another book from Lee Fribbins. Okay, Ryan, introduce them. Go ahead.
Introduce him. Hey, from one of the toughest towns in the UK, Portsmouth. This is the one. This is the only. Look at him. He just come out of the gym there. I think he's trained to be a UFC fighter. Kevin Zerafa, how are you doing, my friend? Nice to meet you, or nice not to meet you. Nice to have you on the show. I've already met you before. The first time I met him, I looked at him and I said, that guy, bet, has real damn good grizzles. And later on, I figured out he did. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. Nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm okay. We're now here into the summer. We're getting into the summer in Canada. I know you guys are well into the racing over there in the UK. But before we start, just a little bit, how are things with you? And you're in the middle of old bird season. So how's everything going?
Yeah, so far so good. We've had some sort of up and down results, but in the main, they've been sort of fairly decent, fairly consistent. We started off in the Central Southern Classic from Guernsey. We had a second open, just pipped by 7 seconds by another local fancier, so very close. And since then, we've had a couple more good results. We won the section in the BBC. And this past weekend, we were also sixth open in the Classic, and we won the second section in the BBC. So pretty good.
Now you have all these different, I guess, like where you are, you've got sections and you've got the Classic and you've got the BBC. And for people who don't understand, how does it all work? So when you go to a race on a Friday or a Thursday for shipping, how do you have to go to different clubs, or how does this all work? Explain to our audience what all these different races mean and the sizes of the competition and et cetera.
Yeah, so generally we would be racing across the channel. And the clubs would all be separate. But this year, partly because we came out of the EU, and last year actually, we haven't been able to race across the channel. So a lot of the clubs have amalgamated this year, and they have sort of combined races. So the Central Southern Classic and the BBC, the British Barcelona Club, they're run by the same lady, Claire. And what she's done this season is she's tried to combine the races to get a bigger birdage, obviously make it more cost effective. So when you send to those races, you can duplicate from one club to another.
Okay, and so you basically, all you got to do is go to one club to put all your birds on now.
Pretty much, yeah. But what they've done is they've all sort of negotiated a way that you just go to one marking station, one club, you enter your birds there, they go into one pannier, get driven to the race, but at the same time you can cross-nominate into other clubs. So for argument's sake, on the 2nd of July, four of the biggest clubs in sort of in the UK are all racing sort of together from St Philbert in France. So they'll all be marking at one market or several marking stations, but one club marking station, and then you can cross nominate into all four clubs.
Oh, so technically your bird can win 4 firsts in one weekend.
In one race, yeah, pretty much, yeah, 4 firsts. Someone lucky enough to win it will get it, yeah.
And so right now the birdage that you're playing against on an average weekend would be how many birds?
It varies really. Sort of, when we go in the NFC races, you're getting sort of 6,000-7,000. The BICC, similar sort of amounts, and then when you go into the classic and the BBC, 1,500 to 3,000 birds.
Wow. So still some pretty big birdage, and I guess the competition again is still very very fierce, eh?
Yeah, so in the national competitions, obviously anyone in the UK pretty much can send. The classics, sort of more sort of specific to sort of the southwest, and sort of like the south of England, really.
Okay. And these races, to enter them, when you go to your marking station to enter into the 4 races, do you have to pay to put each pigeon in?
Yeah, so you pay the initial fee, whatever that amount is, and then there's another amount to pay to sort of basically duplicate into the other clubs. So for argument's sake, I think we were paying £2.75 a bird in the BBC, and then it was like £1.50 additional to cross nominate into the classic. So it's not too bad.
You're like £4 a bird roughly.
Yeah. So obviously when we race on the 2nd of July and there's 4 clubs, I think it's going to be £4 to enter, and then £1.50 a bird 3 times to cross nominate. So what's that, like £8.50 a bird, I guess.
And well, it's a little getting up there. Now, is there a limit on how many you can send?
No limit. You can send as many as you want. I guess sometimes people will send a large amount because they want some birds to sort of be trained in those races.
Right.
And some people will send to be competitive. So for me personally, when we send a mixture. We send some pigeons that we want to be competitive with, and some pigeons just go along for the ride for experience and just to gain fitness.
Right. So it doesn't matter now in any of these races that you pay to enter in. Is there prize money you win as well?
That's what I was going to ask.
I'm on the ball here, Leah. It's Thursday. I'm right in the middle of the hump of this week.
You were ready, yeah. Is there money involved?
Straight in for the money. There is money involved. You don't really get a lot of money for winning the races, but you can gamble on the pigeons. You can bet on the pools, and you can win a little bit of money that way. So if you've got a bird that's you feel is coming into form, it's going to sort of be early in the prizes, you can bet a little bit of money on that bird, and then it's like 1 versus 1, or however many birds you back financially. It's against the other people's pigeons that have backed them with money as well.
All right.
But
okay.
my question for you, Kevin, in the UK, would you say that racing is more for awards and trophies still at this point, or are you guys moving more towards the direction of let's start earning money doing this, or are you guys still more geared towards the awards?
I suppose it varies. There's some fanciers in the UK that good money out of it. I mean, Mark Gilbert would be one that sort of springs to mind. He's probably the most successful fancier currently in the UK, and I think he earns sort of pretty decent money out of pigeons. But then he invests a lot of it back in as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be giving up work to race the birds personally. But if you're successful, you can maybe sell a few birds at the end of the year to pay for a bit of corn and a bit of racing. But it's really it's for the passion to win races and do really well more than financially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now you're saying, so it's more your club and combine and federation winning over there. And then if you do well, it is your hope that you're going to be able to sell maybe some babies some youngsters at the end, or maybe some key racers at the end. But as far as racing for money, meaning in your clubs and combines, I know you probably guys just do like little side bets, like $5 here, $5 pools or whatever. But that's the extent to which it is there, right? As far as the money making.
Yeah, I mean, racing. You're not ever racing for a lot of money.
Gotcha.
Off the top of my head, I think to win the National Flying Club, which is probably one of the biggest clubs in the UK, I think it's like £500 first prize. So it's not going to break the bank, but it was obviously nice to win. But it's more the prestige of winning the race.
Certainly, right. And that's just another thing I wanted to remind everybody, because you had mentioned that this is not your full-time profession, pigeon racing. You do work full-time, right?
Yeah, I work full time. Currently, I'm actually doing two jobs. So I have like a day job, and then I also do evenings at the moment for another company. And then in between, I try and fit the pigeons in. But I must add, really, that I do work from home a lot of the time. So my work is based in London, which is about 80 miles or 60, 80 miles from where I am. So I have to travel up there 2 days a week. But other than that, I'm home sort of 3 days a week with work from home. My work's laptop based. I work on the railway. So I try to sort of during in between meetings, I nip out to the pigeons, let them out, get them in. Sometimes I don't always keep to the times because I may be in a meeting and it overruns or whatever, and I'll do my best to just get out there and get them out and do whatever I can. A lot of the stuff I do for the pigeons is before work hours and after work hours. So I'm fairly busy in the mornings, and then I'm fairly busy in the evenings.
And moving forward in pigeon racing there in the UK or where you are, I know it's great to race for the prestige of winning and that's great. Do you hope in the future that you will be able to earn money? Like have there be one of those clubs where you invest maybe I would say £1,000 for 5 races that you go into, and it's a set prize structure and birds compete for money or something along those lines. Is that something you think would work in the UK? Does that interest a guy like you in the UK for something like that?
I mean, yeah, who wouldn't be interested in getting paid for something they love? So that would be great. But at the moment, we're miles away from that sort of with club and fed and national racing. The only way really to earn sort of, sorry, can you hear the dog in the background?
I can.
Live with animals and children's never works. Yeah, so really financially, the best way or the only way to earn sort of good money out of pigeons is one loft racing in the UK. So you can enter one loft races where there's sort of upwards, 15, 20, 25,000 pounds races in the UK. And then there's obviously races abroad as well, which we do enter. In fact, last year, we raced in the RPRA one loft race, which is probably the most prestigious in the UK. And we were fortunate enough to breed 5th in the final and the first ace bird of the whole of the series. And that pigeon brought home, after being sold, somewhere in the region of £11,500. So that was obviously very, very nice. And it pays for some racing this year and a couple of investments pigeon wise. Yeah, so very good.
Excellent. Yeah. Well done. Go ahead, Ryan. And then we have a question from Michael Peebler. Go ahead.
Well, you know what? Michael Peebler's always on, Leon. I've got 1,000,004 questions, so let Peeb get in there with one. Go ahead.
Michael Peebler is asking, Kevin, are you dealing with young bird sickness any more this year than any other?
Touch wood. Luckily, at the moment, nothing. I've had nothing with regards to young bird sickness, but it is something that does sort of rear its head most years. So all we ever do is sort of shut the birds up, put them on light corn, and then just try and nurse them through it. I don't think there's at the moment anything that you can really do. I know I watched a video from Darren May a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, where he gave a tip. So if I do experience young bird sickness, I've written the notes on my phone and I'll try Darren's tip. So cheers, Darren. Thank you.
Yeah, we're struggling. We're struggling with it a bit over here in North America, but some years you get it, some years you don't, and you just have to let it work its course. Ryan?
Yeah. I guess so. It's a difficult one, and some people really suffer bad every year. But fortunately, I think in the last 10 years, we've only had one really bad outbreak. And in that instance, I contacted a vet, and we sort of dealt directly with the vet. They gave us advice and medication to sort of get them through. But yeah, I would always seek the advice of a vet if I had a bad outbreak. But touch wood, this year it's been fine.
Super.
Yeah, lucky for you. I often wonder. I've talked to a lot of guys in Europe, throughout Belgium or Holland, and they say that people get it and it goes around. It's certain years you get it worse than others. So I'm sure that there's people that you've talked to this year in your local areas and the guys that have it, and you haven't got it. But another thing is you don't bring in a lot of birds. I mean, did you bring in really a whole whack of pigeons this year?
No, not really. I think I brought in three. We brought in 3 editions this year. 2 from Mark Gilbert and 1 from a guy called Frank Zweers who races in Holland. So we brought in 3 long distance pigeons to add. I think that's all I've bought. I'm a bit of an addict sometimes when it comes to buying pigeons, but I've eased off a little bit this year. But yeah, I think we've brought in three new additions, and they're in the stock loft breeding this year. Actually, it's 4. It's 4. I've actually bought 3 from Mark Gilbert. Sorry. So yeah, they're in the stock loft now breeding, and so far so good. But yeah, with whenever we bring in a new introduction, the pigeon is always quarantined. We always make sure that its droppings are fine, everything looks fine before we then introduce it into the rest of the birds, because one pigeon isn't worth the whole colony that we've got here. So no matter how much we've paid for it, it goes through the same process. It goes into the quarantine. Once we're happy, should I say, then it'll be introduced to the rest of the birds.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing to practice. And guys, you hear right from Kevin, one bird isn't worth the whole flock, and you can get one bird, and that's all you need is just one, ladies and gentlemen. It gets into your loft, and she spreads like wildfire. And once she's in there, and the group mingles, and they have that drink of water, and they go through the feed, and it spreads and spreads and spreads. But we have good job with your quarantining. I know when I was at your place, the bird's very, very healthy. The condition on the bird's very nice. And this year, when I was there, you had I remember the big, it was almost like your wire loft, and that's where all your young birds go. So you've got that now, what, full of youngsters?
Yes, full up now. Yeah, so we bought an additional loft in, and it's pretty much an aviary. It's got a perspex roof and it's wire mesh front, and it's sort of got rain deflectors on the front as well. Just obviously, we don't live in the Bahamas, so we have to sort of secure it from bad weather as well. And yeah, the young birds get weaned into there. I designed the loft how I wanted it. It's got sort of drinkers on the sort of ground level that sort of almost mimic the inside of a basket. So it sort of teaches the young birds to sort of poke their heads through and take a drink as they would in the shipping crates. It's got another feature where we can lift the flap at the bottom at ground level and run the birds straight into the baskets to make basketing easier for when we want to take them for training by the car. And it's sort of designed just to be sort of really sort of quite hassle free. I go in to feed the birds. I can water them from outside. At the moment, I've got sort of young bird perches in there, which I clean from inside, but it was designed to take Hermes automatic boxes with a small section on this side, which will allow for the muck to drop outside, and I can open a door and clean out from outside as well. So, yeah. Jeff Greenway from Ireland was the guy that manufactured that Universal Pigeon product. So a little plug for Jeff.
Hey, no problem. He does some great work. I've seen some of the stuff he's done. I was supposed to get up there and see him on my last time there. I couldn't make it. I'll be there the next time. But since you're breeding, you've bred all your youngsters. How many youngsters have you bred so far? And you've put them out into your loft. How much have you had any trouble with any of them?
No, so we've weaned over 2 rounds. We've got 41 youngsters in the first round and 50 in the second. So 91 youngsters total. And they've all been weaning into that loft. It's like 16 foot wide, 8 foot deep. It's split into 2 sections. And at the moment, the birds look healthy. The weather's been sort of a bit hit and miss, but at the moment we're experiencing like quite nice weather, really hot. And like I say, I take the weather protection off, the rain deflectors off the front, and it's just one big aviary, and the birds benefit from the fresh air. They love it.
Yeah, and your young birds, because you're not a predominantly heavy young bird flyer, you basically just get a little bit of work into them and then park them because you like old birds and you like the distance racing. Have you had to pull any youngsters out that you've looked at out of your 91? Did you look and say, that grizzle doesn't look right, and pull it out, or has it been perfect?
It's been good so far, to be fair. If something's not growing right or whatever, then we remove it. But up to now, everything's been pretty fine. I think anyone that deals with livestock, you do have, mishaps, eggs that get broken, youngsters that get trampled sometimes. We experience exactly the same things. But, again, touch wood, it's been pretty good so far. Pretty smooth sailing.
What can I say, Leah? So he's got the luck. So hopefully we're going to get some luck from Kevin. We need a little bit now.
Yeah, we sure do. ABC Loft over on YouTube is asking, Kevin, do you measure your feed every day, or how do you feed your pigeons?
Yeah, so it varies. It varies. It's obviously weather dependent, because I find pigeons they eat different amounts depending on the weather. So at the moment we're experiencing hot weather, and the measured amount that I put in at the moment, they leave some. But what I generally do is in the winter months, we have a mix that sort of contains quite a lot of barley, and from that I can gauge roughly how much the birds want in each section, because obviously everyone knows they start to leave the barley. And from that, I can roughly work out what measure that I need to feed the birds sort of through the year. If we get really, really cold days, the birds tend to want a little bit more food, and if we get really, really warm days, they don't eat as much. So, yeah, it's a measured amount, but it varies from week to week depending on depending on the weather, depending on the race, depending on the distance, and all those sorts of things. So yes, yeah, is the answer.
So when you're feeding for races, and I don't know, you're feeding maybe for 300 or 400 or 500 mile racing, whatever your race feeding for, whatever races, do you feed by a measurement, or is it by hand and just watch, slow and steady, and say, okay, they're starting to leave the peas or the beans or the barley or the flaxseed or whatever they're leaving, and to pull away, or you're feeding and a couple birds go for a drink and you think, that's enough. Well, how do you do it?
Yeah. So I've got I'm sure most fanciers have a measurement outside, which I've got sort of a cup, which I know does roughly 12 ounces roughly in a cup. And then what I'll do is I'll go in the morning, and they'll get roughly half an ounce per pigeon in the morning for the morning feed. And then I'll go back in the evening, and they get around about 3/4 of an ounce in the evening. But again, it's not always a set amount like that, and what I try to do is I don't put it all in at once. I'll put put it in 2 or 3 times in 3 sort of portions to make sure that they eat everything before I give them more. Because otherwise, if you feed everything at once, sometimes they'll just pick out the bits they want, and then you'll have a trough with a lot of barley or whatever it is that they don't want to eat.
Right. So you do take your time, and if you feed what your normal measurement is, and today they just look a little bit hungrier, like they're looking at you saying, "Hey, Dad, come on, man, give me the groceries," you give them a bit more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just this past weekend we had a pretty tough race. So the birds were racing from 290 miles, and it was a really, really strong sort of nose and side wind.
Right.
And the birds came back, and they got as much as they could eat on the Saturday and Sunday, and then through the week we just made sure that we went in there, and when we fed, if they needed that little bit more, we would just top it up a little bit more. But really, that was only sort of Monday, and then for the rest of this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, we've been out there, and they've sort of left food in the trough. So.
Okay, and this week coming up to the race, you said it was 290 miles, so we'll say 300 miles.
Yeah.
And they had shoulder headwinds. So those birds were on the wing roughly, what would you say, about 8 hours?
Yeah, nearly. So the first bird we timed, sorry, was 7 3/4 roughly. And then we were still timing pigeons in after 12 hours. And it was a real tough race. I mean, there's a lot of pigeons were missing on the day. We did pretty well. Like I say, we were sixth open in the Central Southern Classic, and we had 30 from 34 entries on the day. Sorry, no, we had 26 from 30 entries on the day, and then the next day we had 4, and the day after we had another 1. So we're still 3 birds away in a really, really tough race when a lot of lofts really struggled.
And I'm going to throw this one at you because I wasn't there. Was there east in the winds?
No, it was a southwest wind. We were racing from the north coming down.
Right.
So yeah, it was sort of a head/shoulder wind, and it was sort of gusting up to 25 mile an hour. So really, really, I mean, the velocities were down to, well, we were like 1,100 yards a minute. So it was a real steady race, and yeah, it was tough.
And down where you are in Portsmouth, you're at the bottom, right?
Yeah, so apart from the Isle of Wight, which is an island just off the south coast, we're pretty much the furthest flyers. Yeah, I mean, some local club mates actually won the race. And the pigeons really shouldn't have been down here. They should have been won at the shorter distances. But there were some good birds that really punched into the wind and did really well. Actually, our first pigeon was remarkable, really. When she came home, she come really low and she was really racing. And when I went in the loft to pick her up and check her out after we timed her in, she'd actually hit a wire and it knocked her down to the ground. And she'd been down and her feet were caked in mud. So for her to then still achieve 6th out of like 1,500 pigeons after being knocked down to the ground, remarkable for me. Fantastic pigeon. So really pleased.
It shows the amount of heart a pigeon has and the determination and the will and everything inside it. And we have to also say the bloodlines and the motivation that you use to get those birds to perform. Now, in races like this, what you're doing now, 290 miles and onward here, the system you're flying with because I know you fly cocks and hens. What did you do? What was your move for this week coming into that race? What did you do with the birds?
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same most weeks. The only thing that really varies is the time we allow the pigeons to mix together. But the pigeons, the hens have their own section. They're on perches all week. The cocks are in where the nest boxes are, but they're locked out of the nest boxes and they're on perches themselves. Right. On the day of shipping, all we do, we go down there, and whether it's 15 minutes, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever we decide, however we're feeling on the day, really, it's all through feel. We'll just open the boxes, let the hens in with the cocks. Everything's going crazy. We call it the porn star system because mostly they get a different partner each week. Sometimes you lose a pigeon and the cock or the hen will find another partner. And they're going wild. They're going crazy. They're fighting. They're going mad. And then I just go in when I'm ready. I go in and I start picking. If there's a pair of pigeons having a real fight in a box, I'll go and start picking those ones out first so they don't hurt each other. Get them in the baskets. Make sure they're in separate baskets. And then slowly but surely we pick all the pigeons out and basket them up for the race. So they go with a bit of fire in their belly when they go to the race.
Now, before you interrupt, Ryan, and I have a little video clip when Ryan visited Kevin back in the wintertime. And it's a little motivational tip that Ryan picked out when he was at your loft, Kevin. I'm going to show the tip, and then we're going to talk about it. So here we go.
We talk motivation. That's motivation. When you open up a new piece of real estate and you've got a bunch of cocks, you can see real estate there. Tips for motivating pigeons. Look at them. Look at them look. Isn't that something, Kevin?
So some of those are yearlings, and they've never seen that before. They don't know what that is. I mean, the 2-year-olds, I would have seen it last year.
Yeah, could you imagine what they're going to say tonight when you take it away? Man, when's he going to open that back up again? But you see it, guys. Motivation in pigeons. Do pigeons like to be motivated? Well, if people do, pigeons must.
I think they do.
Wouldn't you think?
I think so.
You hear the music. There's a little motivation tip.
The bar is open.
The bar is open. Kevin Zerafa. Look at these cocks looking at this. Imagine if you opened up all the boxes. It'd be chaos in here. You'd screw them up for 2 days if you're so excited.
Yeah.
There you go. Motivation at its best.
Wow.
See that? You should have seen Lena.
There we go, guys. Let's talk about it.
I had to shut the camera off, but 10 minutes after that, me and Kevin were in the same box. We were moving around in there. Everybody was motivated. No, but first and foremost, when I was in there, Kevin showed me how he could open those up. And those pigeons that were in there, they were all pretty much yearlings. They had never seen that before. And you see how kind of nosy the kids are, or the teenagers are. Open that door up for a second, and what? They were all standing there like, yeah, let's go on in. He didn't add any straw into the box. He just had the bowl under there, and the bar was open, as Kevin would say. And that's the motivation. A small thing like that tweaks them. Just a little bit of go. Would you say, Kevin?
Yeah, I think, I mean, everyone's got their own things that they do. I like it when there's something new in the loft. So, like, again, if a pigeon sort of loses its partner, or a pigeon comes back late and another cock is taking his box, and it causes a fight in the loft, a bit of territorial sort of, all that sort of stuff. I try to play on that sort of stuff when we send the birds to the race. So, the more new things we can introduce, the better, I find.
Yeah, as I talked to like Verstrada and some other guys in Belgium, they'll even take cardboard boxes and they cut holes in them and they put them in the corners, or they put a perch in the middle of the loft so the birds can go on top of it, and the birds get dominating. And these are all the small things that you do to win races, and it's not in a book, it's in a feeling. And it's as you said, you went to this week's race and you do certain things, and every week you don't do the exact same thing.
No, it's different. It's different all the time. So, like I say, I mean, as in the system kind of stays the same, but what we do is we change the amount of time, or like you've shown on that video, the boxes underneath. That's not an every week thing. That might be that we open that up when there's a really important national race. I may open that up sort of the night before and let one cock go down there and dominate that box. And then all the others are looking around like they did in the video. All the other boxes are closed, and that one cock sort of takes that box, and maybe it might just give him that little bit extra to come home quicker. And then when we put the hens in, maybe he'll go back to another box. Maybe he'll take a hen down to that box. If he takes a couple of boxes, he's got to fight to keep them both. So if in the loft, if a cock takes 2-3 boxes, I'll never stop him from doing that. If he can keep up fighting for those 3 or 4 boxes, then it's keeping him busy, keeping him motivated.
Yeah, 100%. And have you noticed in the years that you guys have done this, you and your father were partners, and you guys played the sport, did you notice the motivation you'd pick up on a key bird? Like, oh man, that red checker, he's taking in this box, he's crazy, or the hen's crazy, and bang, it's your first bird. Has it paid off for you? Have you been able to visually see it come through?
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, it's probably the most difficult thing in pigeons is picking sort of your non-bird, your money pigeon. But sometimes, you play those little tricks, and I mean, generally, if you've got a bird that's sort of, it's been coming well for you, or it's done something in the past, or at a certain distance, or from certain race points, you note that, you write it down in the book, and then you try and wind them up again for that particular race, and try and sort of do the same things as what you did last time when that pigeon was successful. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, you got to try these things.
On your porn star system, as you call it, which is a great system. It's a great name. Again, this one, he should trademark this son of a bitch name here. Next thing you're going to see the polls in Kevin Zerafa's loft. Trust me, you'll see that next time we go. No, do you find the hens do better on it, or the cocks do better on it? Who takes better to the porn star system?
This year the hens have been coming a lot better. they're exercising more freely around home, and they're just I don't know, they're just doing a lot better than the cocks are. But it varies. You know, we in years gone by we've had Kens sort of that do really well on the system and cocks. But for argument's sake, the hen that was second classic in sort of earlier in the season, she had taken 2 boxes when she went into the cock section. We left her in there for a couple of hours, and she'd taken 2 boxes. And every time another hen tried to get into the other box with her cock, she'd fly around and fight them off. I mean, I spotted it, but it was sort of like, you know, she wasn't my non-pigeon. But afterwards, I was like, oh, okay, I can see why she come through for me, you know.
Right. I don't say you have to nominate him, but it stuck out in your mind as, boy, this hen's acting a little bit crazy,
A bit
and
different.
it worked. Yeah,
Yeah.
a bit different.
Yeah.
Great questions, Leah.
I have a question from Michael Peevler. Kevin, how long do you give a new breeder to produce for you?
Too long. It's very difficult when you're sort of long distance orientated. We don't tend to send the pigeons to the 500+ mile races until they're 2-year-old. I know some people send yearlings, but that's just not what we do here. And then you're breeding for 5 or 6 years before you really know. And whether it's a champion bird or you've paid a lot of money for it, they don't throw champions every nest. So we give them plenty of time. And sometimes we've moved we've moved birds out of the loft, and then they've gone on to produce good pigeons, and by that time it's too late. But it's really tough to answer that question because you just get a feeling. I keep a loft book, which I'm sure everyone does, and we look back to see how many we've produced off those pigeons over the course of 4 or 5 years. And if we've got nothing in the loft after that time and there's nothing of note, they've got to go. And we don't move them on to other fanciers. They go away. They go into the food chain.
Tacos, as they say, tacos.
Yes.
Tacos. Angry Brit on YouTube says, can you ask Kevin, what is the pedigree of his RPRA one loft race 5th place bird? What's the pet on that one? Do you remember?
I do remember. So the father was bred by Roger Lowe. I'm sure most people in the UK know who Roger is. And it's a double grandson of Southfield Supreme of Mark Gilbert's. Southfield Supreme won first international DAX for Mark back in 2004, I think it was. And he was a Van Elsacker pigeon, which I think is a middle distance bird.
Yeah.
So it's a double grandson. And the mother is a pigeon bred down from Staffan Reitz that we had from a guy called Albert Sinclair, who races in Swindon. Back when I was a boy in 1998, the first time I ever entered a race, 500+ mile race, which was Poe in the Central Southern Classic. I raced on my own at that point before my father came in partnership with me. And obviously he backed me financially at that time because I was only about 18 and not working, not earning very good money. And we were fortunate enough to be second open in that race. There were only 2 birds that made it into the UK on the day, and we were second open. And the chap that beat me was a guy called Albert Sinclair from Swindon. I was only a young lad, and when I went up to sort of receive my trophies at the presentation evening, he offered to breed me some Staffan Reitz pigeons. He bred me 6. And one of those pigeons turned out to be a really good breeder. So Staffan Reitz is not a strain that probably is prominent these days in the UK, but it was just a good line that we've had, and it's bred that line for us has bred many winners at club and sort of good sort of national pigeons as well. And that's the mother side. It comes down from a pigeon called the 19. She's a treble fed winner for us, and she was a very, very consistent bird.
Very, very nice. So again, you see some old family there, the Staffan Reitz. Again, they really seem to make their mark throughout the world. I think they did the very best there in the UK, those Van Reitz pigeons. But amazing, the Serge Van Alsecker pigeon in there as well. Middle distance pigeon, another good one loft race performance for Serge, which is good to see. Great pigeons Serge has. But congratulations on that one, my friends. Good quality pigeons. I know when I was at Kevin's, and when you go to a loft, you can see it right away. And if you take a look at that, 30-second clip of the motivation. Look at how nice and tight and strong those cocks are and motivated, and they all look nicely well balanced and put together. You see the health and the condition and the character. It's nice to see, and I know the visit there, the birds were terrific. And we also purchased one of your birds at the where were we there? We were at the track.
Yeah. It was the Epsom show, wasn't it? And it was for the Thames Breeder Buyer auction. And
That's right. I'm gonna win it with Formula One. I just want to let you know.
John, yeah. Hopefully, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. John's
Kevin
a top
brought,
flyer, so I'm sure he'll do it justice.
Absolutely. I know you've brought a couple birds that you're going to show us, but before we get to that, and I didn't want to forget, and I always ask all our breeders, where did you learn everything you know, or who was your mentor? And I think we would be remiss to talk to you and not talk about your dad. So, where'd you learn everything you know, Kevin?
Yeah, so obviously my dad, was a massive part, pigeon racing with my dad. So when I was 11 years old is when I started, and my dad helped me massively back then. At that time, I just raced under Zerafa, and then when I got to about 16, I actually sort of moved away from the pigeons a little bit. I not got out of the sport, but I didn't show as much interest. I was looking at the two-legged birds instead of the winged ones. And my dad continued sort of racing on his own. I just literally would turn up on a Saturday and then go up the club and take any glory there was. But my dad had to have all the credit, really. He done all the work back then. But then a few years ago, sort of got back into it, big time, and we started to invest sort of good money into the birds. We wanted to be successful, and up till then, before we financially invested in the birds, we were sort of, we were very mediocre, I guess. And with the introduction of some better pigeons, it's elevated us to sort of, to have some nice success over the last few years. But yeah, my dad was brilliant. I miss him a lot. It's been my first year racing without him, and already I'm seeing, some things that he used to do that I miss having him here. Yeah, so it's very, very tough. Father's Day Sunday, which is going to be a tough one for me as well. But yeah, I've got to give a shout out to the big man. So he's up there, always looking over me.
Oh,
So,
look at
God bless
that.
him.
And you know what? I'm sure he's looking down on you and so proud that you're continuing this journey on. As someone, I know Ryan flies with our dad, and he knows what that whole partnership, that friendship, that whole thing is like. And you're very fortunate to have had the opportunity to have raced with your father, and I'm sure he's so super proud of you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And when Kevin put those birds aside, his dad had to have been a smart man, because he said, God, I got to get my son back, and he's looking at all these women. So what did he probably say? He said, Kevin, I come up with a new system of racing. And Kevin said, what's that? And he said, the porn star system. And Kevin come right on back. But, Kevin, the question I wanted to ask you, when you came back to the birds, and you and your dad, you guys first sort of started off, and just like everyone starts at the bottom of the heap, and you try and, you go to the market and you get a 10-pound pigeon or a 20-pound pigeon, or a guy gives you a whole bunch of pigeons, and you're just constantly struggling, and you'll get one result somewhere and you feel great, and then 10 bad results, and it goes up and it goes down. And at what point did you guys feel you needed to sort of completely upgrade the birds? Like, you had the confidence in what you were like, where you say to yourself, you look in the mirror and you say, man, I'm a great basketball player, but I can't play basketball in flip-flops. You know what I'm saying? I'm really good, but I'm in flip-flops and I can't compete. So how did you guys come out with that?
Yeah, so I guess for me, it was we were racing fairly consistently in the club and at federation level. But then when we would go to national classic level, we'd have the odd good result here and there, but it was never really consistent enough. It was very hit and miss. And I just thought to myself, if you want to be the best, you need to buy the best. And we started investing. And money doesn't buy the best. You know, you need an element of luck in there as well. But I do believe that, you know, if you buy from the best stock you can buy, and you buy the pigeons that, you know, that are winning the races that you want to win, or buy from those pigeons, then the averages are better for you. You know, you've got a better chance of having success if you're buying out of pigeons that are winning those races. I think in, you know, horse racing, dog racing, any other sort of, you know, animal racing, they always go to the top stud, the top horse, the top dogs, you know, and everyone wants a piece of the action. And it's no different in pigeons. If you want to win, you've got to have good pigeons. That is the fundamental of pigeon racing. If you've got rubbish birds, forget it. You know, it's just you're just banging your head against the wall.
And once you started investing, and I know I've done it as well as I'm sure you have, and you know a lot of guys that have, not every bird that you invest in turns out to be great. But once you started investing and believing in the birds you were bringing in, and probably you still tweaked and adjust your system as you do now, how quickly did you start to see results?
So we started investing money around 2016-17. And in 2017, when we got some pigeons that were bred by Mark Gilbert, actually, that's when we won our first national. So we bought from, who in my opinion is the best fancier in the UK. We got pigeons from him, and instantly we had a first national in sort of pretty much in the first year we raced the birds as yearlings.
Okay, so you right away you start to see the results, and you continue to go out and source pigeons, and it's working out. So you feel the way of going on investing a bit of money in what you can afford on good pigeons, it's paying off for you.
Yeah, and obviously you can only invest what you can afford, you know. And I think you've just got to go. If there's a fancier that's doing what you want to do, then what better place to start? You know, buy some pigeons from that fancier, and try and buy from his best. I mean, we've always had a philosophy here. We always try to, if we can, buy the champion itself. Sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not. If we can't buy the champion, then we'll try and buy youngsters from that champion. And obviously, if you can afford to buy more than one, then great, because, you know, they don't breed winners every nest. You know, it's livestock you're dealing with, and some will be good, some will be bad. But the closer to the tree that you get, I think the percentages are more in your favour. The further away you go, the more watered down, the more diluted. I think then it's harder and harder to find a champion bird. You will get them, and people do get them. You know, there's some places that will send out hundreds of birds every year, and if you send out hundreds of birds, you're going to get winners turn up every now and then. But in the main, I think the closer to the tree you can get, the better for you.
I agree. Leah, what do you think?
I agree as well. And you know what's so nice is that you guys sat down and decided to change your strategy to say, okay, you know, it's working, but it's not really working what we're doing. We're working really hard and we're not quite getting the results we want. And then you sat down together as a team and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And let's try to bring in some new blood, some fresh blood, some winning blood, and let's see if that does it. And the fact that you did that and committed to it and brought some new birds in and you hit the first year, I mean, that's got to make you feel good that you trust your gut, right? Like that's your gut instinct. You went with it and you succeeded. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we like I say, you know, we race fairly consistently at sort of club and federation level for many years. But then I always had the ambition of flying sort of better pigeons in the national competitions. And sort of over the years, that sort of developed more into having a passion for long distance pigeons. And our pigeons just didn't, at the time, they just didn't cut the mustard in the bigger races, not as consistently as we wanted to fly. So it was, you know, we felt that we were doing everything right with the birds. We felt that we were prepping them right for the races, but the quality of the pigeons at the time just weren't good enough for the national competitions. So again, we went into a fly that we felt was the best at that distance we wanted to fly, and we started purchasing pigeons from either him direct or on you know, through different various channels. And like I say, we've done that since sort of 2016-17. Every year we've brought in fresh blood, fresh pigeons. We always try to buy as close to the tree as we can, and that's normally either a direct child of an international winner, or a direct child of a national winner where possible. And if it's available, we'll buy the winner. In 2019, we bought in Queen Mary. Darren McFadden, who raced her, won Tarbes NFC, the golden race, the big one, the one that everyone wants to win. Unfortunately for Darren, he suffered with pigeon lung, and it was always going to be his last season in the sport. He hit the jackpot with the last race. He won the big one. And when he sold up, that pigeon became available, and I had to stretch to get it, but I was lucky enough to buy it in the end. And we've been working with her for a few years now. And touch wood, fingers crossed, if all goes to plan, we've got 1 2-year-old in the loft. We bred 2 out of her in the first year of buying her that we put into the race team. And that pigeon's now a 2-year-old, and he's got 2 more races. He's got 1 more prep race, and then he goes to Po National. I think it's the 3rd week of July. And hopefully, if he can get through his prep race and he goes there, hopefully we can time him in a good spot. And that'll be the first one of her children that we've managed to get to the 500-mile races out of 2 that we started with.
Now, when we talk about her, who are we talking about?
Queen Mary, who's a grizzle hen.
And you brought. Come on. Let's see her. Come on. I know you brought her. Yeah, let's see her.
Okay, I brought her. Hold on.
Have a sip of wine first, and don't spill wine on her. She's a grizzle. Now, guys, there you go.
Good job.
Hey, guys, you will see in the loft tour, this is the hen that gets over my head. It never happens, but I was hoping she was going to get out and fly away, and I was going to go catch it. What a nice hen this is.
Here we go. We're looking at the famous Queen Mary. Let's have a look there, Kevin.
She's breeding youngsters at the moment, so she's obviously she's got a little bit of signs of that around her wattles and stuff. But yeah, she Darren McFadden raced her in 2019. She won the NFC Grand National from Tarbes. She also went the previous year, and she was 2nd section 26th Open. That was in 2018. That year, the race was won by some good friends of ours, Jimmy and Eric. And then when we purchased her, we'd already spoke to them about pairing the 2 Tarbes winners together. So I don't think it was done before by anyone else. So we sort of done a deal to put the 2 Tarbes national winners together. And we bred some babies, and we both sort of furnished our stock lofts with them. And like I say, and then once I got her back here and she was breeding at home, I bred some for the race team, and hopefully we can time a good one from Po this year out of her. But she's a lovely hen. She's really nice, balanced.
She's stunning.
Let's see if I get this right.
Come on, let's go, yeah! All right.
Good job.
But she's a lovely hen, and obviously it's a bit of a unique colour as well. So I know the grizzles have been quite popular in the UK with pit bulls and other types, but her base is sort of Kirkpatrick, which is a real old strain. But when you go back through the pedigree of Darren's birds, they were just consistent all over the years, constantly coming home from the sort of the 500-600 mile races. And he's built his foundation on pigeons that can get home, and then just made them faster over the years. But Darren was a phenomenal flyer, did fantastic. I think the year that he won it, he had I think 3 in the top 20 positions, which was unbelievable. He was 1st, 7th, I think, and something else, which was fabulous. And yeah, I'm really, really pleased that we had the opportunity to buy her. These kind of pigeons don't come up for sale very often, and yeah, she's now going to be the backbone of our loft. So hopefully she goes on to produce pigeons of her like.
And I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, this was at the time when he wanted to get, he said, better national, international pigeons. This pigeon came up, and you bid on this pigeon. You never got to see it or handle it. You bid on an auction site for this pigeon, and you had to. When you say you stretched very, very far on this pigeon to get her. but I can see why. I mean, she has everything in it, and I'll tell you guys just how good that this pigeon is. I see there's a comment there from Lee Fibbins. I cannot read the comment from here too far, but he has a book of the Tubbs winners, or however you guys say it. I butchered the name up, but the Queen Mary is on that
Tough.
buck. Yeah, she's on the damn button. So it's a super hen. Photo looks great. Nice rich eye. Strong pigeon. Quality is there. You put two on the race team. He's got one left. He's going to go to 500. You guys are going to hear a Walt Disney story when he wins. When he wins, you watch. This man's going to do it.
I'd say even the dogs are going crazy. They love it so much.
the guard dogs, they've gone running out in the garden. They can hear someone outside. I don't know.
Our friend here, Lee Fribbins, who wrote an amazing article on you, Kevin, which, guys, if you haven't read it, head on over to our website and you can check it out. It's also going to be featured in this month's Pictorial magazine, which we're super excited about. But Lee Fribbins says, yay, my favorite pigeon in the UK. Such a story with Darren, and then such a great guy purchased her. We haven't heard the end of this fairy tale. Beautiful. Queen Mary.
Thank you, Lee.
Said it.
Yeah, he done a great job with the article. Thank you very much. He's a top guy. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah. Beautiful. That
Yeah,
is Queen Mary. Sorry, Ryan. If you guys want to learn more about Queen Mary, we do have her photo up on our website, feathersleepigeonauctions.com, or you can check out the Kevin Zerafa loft tour we did over on YouTube, where you can get a closer look at Queen Mary. Who else do we have to show today, Kevin?
Okay, got one more. Let me put her back.
Okay, Kevin's going to put Queen Mary back. We have a trivia question before we get to the next show and tell from Kevin. What are we giving away? We are giving another autographed book away of the Royal Skies from Lee Fribbins. I can't bring up the photo of the book cover because my internet's not working at the moment, but it's a fantastic book all about racing in the royal family. Trivia question. We're going to get to the trivia question first here, Kevin, and then we're going to have a look at what you have to show us. So, guys, you know the drill. This is the trivia question. The first person to answer the trivia question correctly in the comments before the end of the show will win an autographed copy of the Royal Skies from Lee Fribbins. What is the name of the royal estate the royal family has their pigeon lofts on? First person with the correct answer in the comments wins the book. Kevin, who do we have now?
Yeah, so this is actually the cock that Queen Mary's been paired to for the last, this year and at the end of last year. It's a pigeon we call the Northman. He raced from Thurso in Scotland last year because we couldn't go into France. So the longest, not the longest race, but one of the longest races was from Thurso with the British Barcelona Club. And we sent him, and he was the only bird timed on the day into our section, being the furthest flying pigeon on the day as well. He came home after, I think it was 14 and a half hours flying. He looked fresh as a daisy when he got home. Fantastic cock. He's nice and small. And he was 14th open in the open result, won the section. And to be honest, we stopped him because we want pigeons that can fly 547 miles on the day. And he did that. He did that, and he did it really well. He looked really fresh, come brilliantly. So we've put him in the stock loft, and we're hoping that him together with Queen Mary will produce us some gold over the next few years.
Yeah, you see the super class in this pigeon. And guys, I drove from Scotland down, and I see the course. And man, there's a lot of these valleys and these there's almost like these hills on either side. And wow, when you see the terrain that the birds have to come through, this pigeon here, you see the quality in him. Look at how nicely he's put together. Look at the strength in him. And getting back to the Queen Mary there, as Kevin has it in his hands, you see the fight in that pigeon. Super pigeons show that fight. This is another one the same way. Look at the beautiful wing on this pigeon. The feather quality is super. I remember handling it. And there's the best of the best. And you see 14 hours on the wing. He's at the farthest section of he's in the worst, not the worst spot, but the longest spot. 14 hours on the wing for a pigeon, covering that type of course. There's super class right there. That's a 12-plus pigeon. Both of them, very lucky to have them, and you've got them put together. So some magical things will come from them if you just give them some time.
Yeah, best to best. So obviously, like I say, we brought her in. She won the biggest race in the UK. That race wasn't available to us last year, so instead we sent the Thurso in Scotland, which was the biggest race that we could enter into. And like I say, we were fortunate enough to time him on the day, 14 and a half hours, longest flying day bird. And we had a really good race. We like I say, it's 547 miles for us. There was no other birds timed in the section on the day, and then we had 4 good birds the next morning, which meant that we took the first 5 in the section, racing against some top fanciers in the area. So really, really proud of that achievement. It's probably one of the best things we've ever done. So yeah, and obviously he spearheaded that. So yeah, really pleased, and I think he's going to go on to be a top breeder for us. Really do.
Yeah, he's stunning. He's really, what a looker. Beautiful. Very nice, Kevin. Very nice.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you guys can see the class there. Now, when you flew this pigeon, he would have been a 2-year-old, correct?
Yeah. So he's a 2019 pigeon. So yeah, he was a 2-year-old when we raced him. In the season we raced him, he started to show signs when we got him out to about 300 mile. He started to show signs of coming really well. And he was, one of our favoured birds for the Thurso race, and he didn't disappoint. He done really well.
Right, and roughly on that day, guys, to tell you the speed probably that bird was doing, he was probably doing around 38 mile an hour. So it was a tough day. You're doing 540 miles. Bird had to work. And, you hear key things. The bird had to work 14 hours on the wing, longest section. But he says, what did I really like? The bird looked like he didn't work. Probably, if I ask Kevin, you think that bird had another 25 miles in him? Kevin, yeah, probably. He probably had right till it was dark. He had it in him to do it. And that's what you're looking for. But again, this is a distance family of pigeons. He's giving these birds time to develop. So all those 90 young birds you hear him talking about, he's just letting them be pigeons, really. A little bit of work here and there, nothing much. Yearlings, more work, and then it's time to go to the dance.
Yeah, so we're not too worried about performances as young birds, not really worried about performances as yearlings with the distance birds. But at 2-year-old, they get sent to the target races, and that's when we expect them to show something. So, some birds will show a little bit at the shorter races in the lead up, but really we're breeding pigeons to fly 500 miles plus. And I get excited with the opportunity of timing in day birds. So a few people have said to me about flying sort of the Barcelonas and the Lyrics, those kind of race points, which I'd love to do. But my passion is trying to get a bird to fly 500 plus miles on the day. For me, there's no better feeling when you're in the garden and you see that bird drop after flying 14, 15 hours on the wing. Last year when we raced from Thurso, we had some local fanciers come round, and the pressure was on. So we had a few guys in the garden. They had a few beers open. We got a Chinese takeaway. Everyone's nice and relaxed, enjoying themselves. I'm pacing up and down the garden. There was no grass left on the lawn by the time the pigeon came. But luckily, the pigeon didn't disappoint. It came like a rocket, and yeah, it's great when that happens, when you've got an audience there and you deliver. It's fantastic.
Kevin, I know the feeling completely that you feel. It's absolutely for everyone. They're having a great time, and you're sitting there and you're putting on the pretend face like, oh, this is going great. And you're just, the minutes just seem to fly by. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you got that one, your day changed. Then you were into the party mode. It was like, whoa, I did it. I know exactly what it feels. And hearing Kevin describe it, you hit it right on, my friend. I know the feeling, man, it's a feeling.
The weight completely lifts off your shoulders, because no one expects anything, but you send a team, you've prepped them right, they're in good form, and you're hoping that something pulls through for you. So yeah, luckily for us it did, and it was a good result for us, probably the best.
Wow, there's a super one, Leah. Oh, and Leah, the question that you had, because I know we have a lot of UK people probably on. The question for the giveaway, read the question again. I think I have the answer for it.
Well, they all see somebody already answered it, but I was trying to pull up on my phone. I wanted to show the cover because I can't get it on my laptop, and every time I go to do it, it keeps cutting me off. So I just want to show the cover before we get to, because we do have correct answers, but I just want to show the cover of what everybody
I'm going to
is
give my
going,
answer first.
what the correct answer is going to win. If I can get the stupid thing pulled up. Sorry, I'm having internet issues here today. I think it's the weather. I don't know. Hold on here. And we have a couple more questions for Kevin that we're going to get to. And then we're going to wrap this show up. But let me see if I can show the cover. Oh, God, I can. Thank God. Here we go. Quickly. Here we go. The Royal Skies. We were giving an autographed copy of The Royal Skies written by Lee Fribbins. You can get your own copy at racingpigeon.co.uk, £22.45. But we're going to give away an autographed copy to the first correct answer. And the question was, what is the name of the royal estate the royal family has their pigeon lofts on? Do you guys, Ryan, did you think you had the right answer?
Yeah, it's Old Trafford.
Well,
Watch out, Leah. They're going to come for me. They're going to come for me. They're going to come for me. It's okay. No, that wasn't the right answer. Come
That
on,
is
who's
not
got the winning answer?
that is not the right answer. Lee Fribbin says, "Can I enter?" That would be no. But actually, the first person who put the answer is correct. Bob Anthony Besant. I'm not sure where you're from, but you answered correctly. Sandringham is the correct answer. That is where the royal family has their royal lofts. So, Bob Anthony Besant, congratulations. You win an autographed copy. Please send us your mailing address at info@fepa.ca, or you can put it in the message if you want, in the comments section if you want, and we will send you off your autographed copy. Congratulations to Bob, everybody. A round of applause for Bob. Well done. Let's get to our wrap-up questions here. We're going to wrap this show up in about 10 minutes here, folks. If you have questions for Kevin, now is the time. Let me get to them. I know there was a whole bunch of them here. Where is it? So Tracy had a question.
Have a sip. Here they come.
if I drink any more, I'm going to fall off my chair.
Okay, don't worry. We'll help you up. Lee's not far away.
Tracy asks, what's the one single piece of advice you'd give to a new flyer starting out?
Try and obtain the best pigeons you can. It doesn't have to be for massive amounts of money. You just buy from a successful loft, and try and buy the best you can afford. Buy the best pigeons, because without good pigeons, forget it.
And remember, he's saying closest to the trees you can afford. A lot of lofts have good pigeons, but buy the ones from the best ones of their loft, the closest you can get. Go ahead. Next question, Leah.
Just want to say everyone got the answers right. Awesome. Angry Brit said I had a stray from the Royal Lofts for a couple of days till they collected it. Sandringham Estate, people are still answering the question. That is correct. Thank you guys for your participation. We're going to have another giveaway next week, okay? Don't worry, folks. We're going to do it again. On that note, we want to thank Kevin so much for spending the past hour or so with us and with our audience, for sharing your pigeons with us, for sharing your stories with us, for sharing your tips and tricks. You gave us 3 really good tips that we've been sharing with our Pioneer Club. That people have really enjoyed. All of the tips are on our website from Kevin, as well as on our YouTube channel. We encourage you after this broadcast to head on over to our website under our Feathers Elite breeder directory and check out Kevin Zerafa. I'd show you, but my laptop's down. Where we have his article, we have photos of his key breeders, we have his results, we have his loft tour, we have his tips. You name it, we have it. And we are so excited to be bringing Kevin Zerafa and the Zerafa pigeons to the Feathers Elite family this fall for season 5. We are so excited to represent you and your thoroughbreds. We think you do an amazing job, and we are so excited to hear how you do this season. Will you come back maybe at the end of the season, closer to fall, and let us know how you did?
Of course. Yep.
Awesome.
Hopefully I'll have some good results to share with you. Fingers crossed.
Awesome. Ryan, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I want I want to say thank you very much to the Mays family and to Formula One. They put me onto this guy. I ask everybody, who's the guy? Who's the guy? Come on, who do you got to see? And they said there's this young guy, Kevin Zerafa. He's getting deadlier and deadlier. He wins. And you know what? He's got a perfect gentleman's attitude. He's got that spirit to fight. No excuse. He goes out there and gets the job done. And I was lucky enough to be at Epson. I met him. And, you know, amazingly, there were 70 birds in an auction room. And I went through them. I wanted one of Kevin's birds. I purchased it. I didn't get it. I seen it just from afar. It looked fantastic. Put it in my hands. Wow. I was blown away. Now I'm going to go out and try and win something with my friends at Formula One from your bird. And it had the quality. My first impression when I handled that little youngster at 45 or 50 days old, I was super impressed. I had a great time coming down to visit you, Kevin. I think the quality of your birds is great. I think your attitude and your positivity is out of this world. And it shows in your results. Everyone thinks highly of you. You're going to do great. And you know what? Thank you for giving us the opportunity to start working with you. The article that Lee Fribbins did is phenomenal, guys. Take a read on that. But Kevin, you're number one. Father's Day's coming. Your dad's with you, my friend. Very proud of you. Now what you got to do is keep getting those results. And hey, until I see you again.
Fingers crossed the big one's written in the stars.
Yeah, that's right. And I would have loved to met him, but I will tell you, he made a great young man, because you are super. And one thing, guys, if you take from this interview, when you hear Kevin Zerafa talk about his pigeons, he never says my pigeons, our pigeons, our pigeons. What we are doing, you hear it. His dad is right there with him. He's never left. Leah, before I get emotional, on that note, Kevin, good luck coming forward, my friend. Enjoy that glass of wine. Audience, you did great. Lee Fribbins, great article. And next week, we're going to give another book away. And there's going to be a trickier question. Inch by inch, brick by brick, mile by mile. You hear me say it, Kevin. You're the man. Go put those two birds away back in the loft. Good night. Good luck. And we'll see you again, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, guys.